it going, peeps? Welcome back to Viva La Coin. I am Joe. I will be your host for today's episode, and hopefully, if you feel like you just ran a marathon and you're fucking exhausted of watching Bitcoin bounce in between 30 and 40K over and over again, just know that you're not alone. I'm right there with you, as is most of retail, and especially some small institutional investors, as now the big players are starting to get involved since El Salvador made Bitcoin its legal tender alongside the US dollar. All of this is super exciting, and there has been news coming out that some of the officials down in Paraguay, another South American country, are going to be doing the same come July. They're going to be putting forth a proposal in order to press Bitcoin into some form of law or use for the country. And this is going to become more and more status quo across South America or any other global nation where their currency has been completely debased, either just internally with the leadership that they've had based on it being pegged to the US dollar and them messing with it, or just an overall system that is completely unsustainable for the populations in which it's supposed to be in place for. But what I want to touch on today is actually what just got approved for Bitcoin and its main update. First one in 4 years. It's known as Taproot. Now, I will say, of course, I'm not a financial advisor. I am not an oracle, nor am I a fucking wizard. This is all just educational advice and me just trying to keep a surface level idea, of what's going on in the space and why I think what was just approved is so important in regards to this update. And I'm going to talk about a couple other updates that are going to occur in crypto. Right now, what we need to realize is when it comes to the selling of Bitcoin, and I'm going to just jump into their daily chart here. We dipped a little bit down to right around 35K. And on the minute chart, which again, don't always advise people going back onto because there isn't a lot of prevalent information, but a lot of the big sells that were pushing everything down, even some of the big buys, the lower it gets, they're all occurring just in almost single minutes. Most of retail was just along for the ride and panicking or FOMOing in, depending on what these major players behind the scenes are doing. But realistically, the big price movement when they're like, oh, Bitcoin's losing weakness, usually it's because you have large players leveraging up a bunch of Bitcoin on different exchanges that allow up to 100 times leverage, dumping it, and then buying it back over the counter off the exchange is to not affect the price. I'm not concerned about the price. One Bitcoin will still be one Bitcoin or 100 million Satoshis, regardless of if the price dumps temporarily. What we're looking at is what is it worth in US dollars. And as the US dollar continues to weaken, and we have all of our monetary regulators coming out and panicking because people are turning to Bitcoin because either inflation is starting to go up or the currency itself is becoming weaker overall, or large competitors such as China have a digital yuan moving away from the US dollar, or Russia is removing all USD from its national wealth fund, we're still going to see this scarcity of supply and demand in the stock to flow model that Bitcoin is emulating right now come to fruition. It's just in the meantime, they're going to continue to stock up. Now, this has been seen because blockchain and that public ledger, it is fully transparent. Over the course of the last 25 days, and this article came out 2 days ago, whales appear to have been accumulating, which that's what I've been saying, with millionaire wallets increasing their holdings by 90,000 Bitcoin in just 25 days. So as everyone else in the market is panicking, these large institutional investors, these very wealthy individuals, they're going in and they are buying more Bitcoin in this fear. Every time it dumps, they buy more. They might be selling some every time it gets back up to 40, and then they're just accumulating even more because they're shorting it down in order to get better entry prices. So BTC whales are stocking up as millionaire addresses brought on more than $367 billion worth of Bitcoin. The accumulation was identified by crypto market data aggregator Sentiment, which identified that wallets holding between 100 and 10,000 BTC or Bitcoin, described by the company's millionaire tier addresses, are now the largest segment of Bitcoin holders and currently amount for almost 50%, 48.7% of Bitcoin supply. So they're going to continue to scoop everything up. And I saw that originally there was a bank that came out, and it wasn't UBS, it was someone else, and they were saying, oh, Bitcoin isn't meant for poor people, or it's not meant for, disenfranchised individuals. No, The fact that you scared everyone out of this market when they tried to get in so that you could buy it all and make it all for you is the narrative that you're trying to push. But that isn't the case at all. Most of the largest Bitcoin holders are people that were in it from the beginning, that were pushing for a decentralized, permissionless, immutable, and corruptible system of value since the beginning because of the corruption in centralized finance. I do not believe that that is a problem. However, it is going to create issues for anyone in retail that is caught outside of any stable form of value when all of this does pop. Because even when the stock market pops, which it will, or the housing market, crypto will take a hit. But it's almost like if you set a nuclear bomb off underwater, you blow everything away, and then it's all going to rush back in, but it's going to go to crypto, and it's going to go to blockchain. It's going to go to a place that actually holds value aside from a fraudulent system that is only based on shuffling money around or defrauding 99% of the population in order to maintain some semblance of control over them. Now, I mentioned Bitcoin has an update coming up, and it is titled Taproot. Now, the Taproot upgrade proposal needed to be voted on by all miners in the system in what's known as signaling. So if you're going to signal that you are in favor of Taproot, which I'm going to explain in a second here, then you would have to signal that as you're generating the blocks and pushing them through. In order for it to go through, we would have needed 90% of miners to signal that they were in favor of Taproot. And it's about as close as we can get to some democratic process on a decentralized network that no one actually controls. All the miners that actually functionally create the blocks and secure the network and drive the hash rate, they all have to agree that this is what's best for Bitcoin. Previously, in the last update, SegWit, that is when we increased the block size limit a little bit on Bitcoin to help with the transaction size and ability to press them through. And it did have a sizable impact on the amount of Bitcoin transactions that could go through. So what SegWit did 4 years ago in 2017 is it is pertaining to Bitcoin and designed to help increase block size limit on the blockchain. SegWit helps increase the block size limit by pulling signature data from Bitcoin transactions. And the term SegWit, which refers to segregate or separate into witnesses, which are the transaction signatures. So all it did was just speed up the amount of transactions that could go through, and it increased the block size a little bit. And then you had a massive internal civil war where people split off Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin SV and Bitcoin Gold and so on, but Bitcoin continued to remain the standard. So as we approach this new update on Taproot, we have already crossed that threshold where we have more than 90% of the miners already have voted that they want this update to go through. And it actually turned out to be, we're now at right around 99% of miners that could vote on this proposal to press it through. So there was a almost unanimous decision in order to update Bitcoin, which will go into effect in November. Now, the people in my personal life, I don't do price predictions on here because I am not here to show bullshit or to make people FOMO in. But my Bitcoin hype prediction actually occurs in November as well. So we'll see if I'm correct in that. And that was before I knew that Taproot was going to be approved or anything. But I do find it a little bit ironic that this timing is all unfolding the way that it is. Now, let's talk a little bit about what Taproot is and why this is important on a grand scale, both for the individual or institutions. So Taproot lock-in achieved, which means we got over a 90%. Bitcoin network set to activate biggest upgrade in 4 years. So with this update, Taproot is coming in November as the web portal taproot.watch indicates that the lock-in period of signaling is finished. This period is reached. The total amount of signaling blocks that we needed, which has then locked in or approved the update. So Taproot is considered one of the largest upgrades in 4 years since the activation of SegWit back in 2017. Poland executive De La Torre tweeted about this milestone after signaling finished. And Poland is the largest Bitcoin mining pool in the world currently. He said, "Excellent work, miners. Congratulations, Bitcoiners. Bitcoin protocol upgrade now set to activate in November." So let's talk about what this is in the most boiled down way possible. So when Bitcoin transactions go through, what they typically use is something known as an elliptic curve digital signature algorithm, or ECDSA, when they are looking at the signatures when the Bitcoin transactions go through. So one of the first main changes that this upgrade is going to do is it is going to allow it to leverage what's known as Schnorr signatures, SCHNORR. Now, the difference between Schnorr and ECDSA is Schnorr is an alternative algorithm with several advantages. One of the key advantages is when multiple keys are used to sign the same message with Schnorr, as opposed to singular ones on ECDSA. The resulting signatures can be combined into a single signature. So you're taking multiple signatures on ECDSA, which is the old way that the signatures would be on the block. You're stacking them all into a single signature with Schnorr, and you're pushing them through that way. So this can be used to significantly reduce the size of the multi-sig payments in other multi-sig related transactions. For example, such as Lightning channel transactions, which a lot of people down in South America use the Lightning network, which just is a secondary layer of Bitcoin transactions that pushes them through in a much more efficient manner for day-to-day use. The main reason Bitcoin did not originally use Schnorr signatures is it was not standardized, and it was not available in common crypto libraries. So that is the first major change that this is going to enable. Other features, besides the bump in scaling expected from Schnorr on the Taproot activation, include more complex BTC or Bitcoin smart contracts and decision-based transactions. Alongside this, it's been said Taproot and Schnorr signatures will also allow for more privacy when transacting. So people for a long time have been saying, why do we need Ethereum or any of these other cryptocurrencies, or they're considered altcoins, if we could eventually update or upgrade Bitcoin to put smart contracts on this currency? And a lot of people for the longest time have said we do not need smart contracts on Bitcoin. The whole reason why it's valuable is it has been so stable with so few updates. And the more you poke and prod and fuck around with Bitcoin, the more you open up the opportunity for something to go wrong. So this has been a long time coming and a massive update that has been pretty much all agreed upon that it's going to go through, that Bitcoin will start to have smart contract functionality. Now, how much of the market it's going to impact Ethereum or Cardano or anything else, that still is yet to be seen. I think that from a transactionary standpoint, you would need all of the Lightning Network and all of the scalability issues to be cleared first, not just slightly addressed. And also, it can't impact it in a negative way if there's more functionality on it. And this starts playing into people's idea or vision that Bitcoin actually just takes over the entire crypto market. I think that's far less likely, and I think that Bitcoin, although having smart contracts, it will not be known for them. It will still be known as a store of value. And then if we get closer to a faster and more scalable transaction method, such as a full-scale Lightning rollout globally, then I think that that starts to open the door for those conversations. Now, Taproot enhancements also include the ability for participants to utilize Merkle trees. Not exactly sure what those are, so I'm just going to say, hey, I'm also not a coder, believe it or not. But those were the other main things. So privacy, because if you take a bunch of individual signatures on ECDSA and you cram them all together on Schnorr, you don't have an individual transaction address, so to speak. So you can send that through and you have a little bit more anonymity as an individual when you press those through. And then I also brought up just a little bit more of them talking about, what the update is. So on the first side, it's expected to bring a better privacy and transparency in the transaction. On the other side, this is the first time smart contracts capabilities being added to the Bitcoin blockchain network. These features are already available on other different coins, and it has been a successful experiment in them so far. It is even being copied in Bitcoin, which is the world's most popular and widely spread cryptocurrency. So you take the same idea of Ethereum still having its issues, now rolling over to Bitcoin, which has the largest network effect, and if it can be done correctly and done well over time, there is a ton of value to be found if you can do that correctly. Now, when we look at the effect that SegWit had when it went through in 2017, from when it was announced that it was cleared to when it went into effect, that was from the 21st of July to the 24th of August 2017. Over the course of that period, Bitcoin went up 52%, give or take, in its price. And it had to do all still while during the whole civil war between Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin SV, and every other bag of dog shit that people try to split off. It still had a massive run up from the point of that announcement, because anytime you take the scarcest, hardest version of money or assets on the planet and you improve upon it, in that case, you're just adding more fuel to that fire. Now with Taproot, we're already down after that correction, but leading up to November, we have plenty of room to run back up. Since this was announced now and the update doesn't go into effect until November, that gives us close to a 5-month window for us to continue to get more people in before that next update goes through. And I think that that's going to restart that FOMO and institutional investing cycle beyond nations getting in and full countries using Bitcoin as legal tender, which I believe we're going to start to see those dominoes continue to fall with Paraguay to be the next country to officially put legislation in place to do that. Now, still, on top of that, when people look at the market and they're like, oh, shit, everything looks weak, and you're talking about a Bitcoin update, who cares? Well, I've been talking about Ethereum having their EIP 1559 update, which is the Ethereum improvement proposal. So this is essentially designed in order to make transactions more efficient. At the present, Ethereum has an auction system that determines which transactions are bundled inside what blocks. The more users willing to pay, the more likely a miner will include a transaction. The busier the network, the higher the fee, meaning users have to factor in the network congestion when trying to estimate the total cost of moving data around the network. I will speak for myself. Back in February, I paid upwards of $300 at times to send transactions back and forth 2 ways through the Ethereum blockchain. That is a fucking bitch and a half to pay. So as they put this through, they're going to make it easier to access for people, impact the fees a little bit, and help the scalability so that not everyone is bottlenecked within the Ethereum network. So by switching to EIP 1559, that system will be replaced by a fee structure that is priced automatically by the network. On top of that, a tip system would allow people who want their transaction verified faster to pay a miner to do so. There's a belief that this move would effectively cut transaction costs by 90% and reduce the uncertainty over how much it would cost per transaction on Ethereum. But there's also another impact, and that is where it becomes deflationary. And when you use Ethereum or the Ethereum network or its native token, instead of that being sent through that network, it would be burned. And all of a sudden, it essentially becomes deflationary. So new Ethereum is mined, used Ethereum is burned, and you don't have more increasing supply. It makes it rarer. Supply and demand, we're right back to the same concept, the stock to flow. And that is why so many institutions are buying a fuck ton of Ethereum. And that includes Grayscale, that has hundreds of millions, if not at this point, I think $1 billion or $2 billion worth of Ethereum. And then finally, when we're talking about updates, just like Bitcoin and Ethereum, I'm also going to mention Cardano, who arguably, at least based on sentiment and the amount of people looking forward to using the network, they just launched their Alonzo Blue 2.0 testnet, which is one of the earliest phases of this Alonzo rollout, which will lead to Alonzo Purple around mid to end of August. That is when their smart contracts go live. This was big for them to be able to start providing the foundations to build a variety of smart contract and different applications further down the line. That went successful. That is huge news. And when we think about all these different updates that are coming, not like next year, not 2 years from now, not speculative, but they're all actively taking place within the next few months leading up to it, this number is pretty a non-issue for me. All I'm looking at is when I mentioned during that last dip around 31K, bought more stuff because I had cash that was sidelined that I took out in profits. Went back up to 40 and I sold some at 40. And then as we go back down, if we get closer to 30, I'm going to buy back then because altcoins will bleed out faster than Bitcoin because Bitcoin dominance has to increase for it to go back up. I will buy low and sell high over and over again and continue to accumulate a stronger position until this dust settles and we move into July and August. And I believe that we'll see the official trend reversal after possibly one final downturn that could be sharp to the high 20s, which would be what most people would consider the spring portion of the Wyckoff distribution reaccumulation pattern. Aside from that, hopefully breaking down that update and just talking about what's going on behind the scenes of the whales purchasing Bitcoin, all of the usability and everything that is about to come our way, the countries that are using it, and really the broader timelines of the amount of adoption that we are going to see as these things go into effect. That's what we need to focus on, not the day-to-day price, unless you are a day trader, in which case I doubt you're watching me. So hopefully if you found this informational, educational, beneficial in any way, please like the video. It would mean a lot if you would share it with anyone in your life that you know is in the market and they just text you every time Bitcoin goes up or down $100. Let them know what's going on. Leave a comment down below if you just want to interact with me or if you have any questions. And as always, I am honored to have you on this episode of Viva La Coin with me, and I will catch you guys next time.